Welcome to my new YouTube channel. I'm a little bit fuzzy about recording the vocals and getting the images done and stuff. This is my first foray into this world. So bear with me if narration vocal on GarageBand was not the right vocal option to go with. If I sound weird or Darth Vader-ish, I apologize. The plan initially was to have like a video vlog thing where I would just be kind of like sitting and ranting, and you could see all the strange facial expressions I make in my bomb new Shade and Light Kat Von D highlighter palette. But, you know, I'm just not comfortable with it. I'm not comfortable with looking into the camera every 10 seconds while I'm talking about something that I think is really, really important and losing my train of thought because I'm looking at how I look. And that could probably be attributed to two things. One, just me being vain, and the other, having a TV background where you're used to other people worrying about how you look and making you look good, and you can really just focus on the content of what you're doing. So the mix of those two things, I think, makes me a little bit uneasy with the idea of putting myself on camera because I don't want to have to worry about how I look. I want to talk about things that are really, really important to me. And, you know, none of those things really have much to do with looks, even my looks, even the things, even when we will be talking about superficiality, or I will be speaking about superficiality, or the current state of our culture, or the current state of our collective psyche. It's still not really that important for you to be able to see me. So that's a really long intro about nothing. So that is why, as you were listening to this, you were probably looking at some, I would like to say, interesting images, mandalas maybe. I have not decided yet, but whatever the images are, please enjoy. I will try to pick things that match whatever I end up talking about. And that's the other fun thing that I really like about myself. Hey, I'm very spontaneous and I'm highly intuitive and I go with it most of the time. Or how about, let's put it this way, when I do go with it, my life is extremely successful in every way. So luckily, from a very young age, when it comes to writing and being creative and expressing my opinion, and especially when it comes to politics, which for some reason has been really tied to creativity for me. I never saw much of a distinction between politics and drama, for example, especially not Greek tragedy. I've always gone with my intuition. I've always gone with my gut. And so that's how I am going to approach this as well. So if I seem to meander or digress, it is neither intentional nor unintentional. I'm just going to kind of go where my mind takes me. And so, with that in mind, let me start. I've been doing something interesting for the past couple of weeks. I've been through a really, devastating breakup. And I've never really been through that before, in any respect. I've always been the one that leaves. I'm always the one that breaks up. I'm always the one that kind of walks away completely unscathed, like, oh, okay, next. So it was an extremely humbling experience and painful. Whew. And one of the things I couldn't handle while I was going through it, I've been going through it for almost a year, so I have a little bit of distance from it now. I can talk about it with a bit more authority, or just a bit more sanity, maybe. One of the things I had to stop doing, that I stopped doing a couple weeks ago, maybe it's even been a month. My conception of time is always a little bit funny. I just stopped watching the news. And I'll tell you why. Because a month before they killed Mike Brown in Ferguson, about a month before, might have even been a month and a half before, about 6 weeks before, I wrote a blog on my website basically outlining how, as a culture, we had allowed the quiet mass incarceration and thus genocide and like open season murder of an entire ethnicity, referring to African Americans and Black people in America, and how our apathy, lack of empathy, however you want to put it, would ultimately be our undoing, because although that treatment has been reserved for the most part for Black people in America for the past 500 years, it will begin to apply to everyone soon, because the color lines are shifting. Color lines are going to shift from black and white to poor and rich. And they have, to a huge extent already. I mean, there's something to be said for the fact that cops keep killing Black people, and yet we have a Black president. So, with this in mind, I wrote the blog that I wrote 6 weeks before Ferguson, which was just kind of a wake-up call. Like, we all need to understand what is being done to Black people in this country. We all need to understand the police state that they have lived under for a very long time. And we need to be cognizant, and if you are for no other reason cognizant of that, then that it will soon affect you as well. If for no other reason, then you're just selfish, egotistical, self-preservational instincts. If for no other reason than that, you need to be aware. And you need to accept the fact that you are a silent accomplice. So I wrote this blog, and then like a month and a half later, Ferguson happened. And I was like, okay, well, yeah. And then you'll have to excuse the horns and stuff in the background. I'm like right on Fifth Avenue, so it's a little bit noisy. Yeah, and right after that happened, I had the urge to go back and like write another blog and be like, you see, this is what I'm talking about. But the situation unfolded so quickly in Ferguson, and it went so quickly from yet another incident, yet another Trayvon Martin sort of incident, to when the facts started to come out, when the details started to come out about how the bullet that had actually killed the kid had went through the top of his skull, how many times the child had been shot, when the details of the autopsy basically started to come out, when it became known on a national scale that after he had been killed, he was left to rot in the street, in the sun, uncovered in front of the whole neighborhood. They wouldn't even cover up his body. And this all was exactly the stuff that I had been talking about in the blog, and exactly the stuff I had been feeling for years. But it was the way that it was done. It was the this unabashed sort of hatred and racism, that you don't even cover. You murder a child in the street, and you don't even cover up his body. Just as a really devastating reminder to everyone there of how much power you really do have over them. How powerless and helpless they really are. So after Ferguson and all the ensuing rising up of the people, the absolutely obscene response from the cops there, this National Guard nonsense, all of this. After all of this, I was like, okay, this process that I had been blogging about is going to actually go a lot faster than I thought. And things are just speeding up, and people can't take it anymore, and something's got to give. And then my friend Gabriel's uncle, Eric Garner, was killed on video by the cops. Now, regardless of the fact that I have a close personal friend whose uncle that happened to be, I was struck by the timing of it, because the Michael Brown incident, I hate when people call it that. The Michael Brown murder, the murder of a child, since then, I had thought that maybe, you know, the powers that be had kind of come to their senses and been like, hey, this police state is getting a little, you know, blatant. Let's pull it back a little. Let's rein it in a little. But when the Eric Garner incident happened, I was like, okay, all right. Now, the interesting thing about it is that my hatred, like my fear, disappointed hope, however you want to put it, of cops goes back a ways. I don't like the idea of the cops. I don't like the idea of a military, even though my parents are both ex-military. I don't like authoritarian groups of any kind. Uniforms, meetings, guns, all this stuff. It bothers me. It bothers me on a level that I can't really articulate other than to say that I'm a human being. And I don't like the idea of other human beings walking around that have power over me just because some organization tells them that they do. And it's not an organization that I'm individually involved in. I mean, I'm involved in the sense that my taxes pay their salaries, which nobody seems to remember anymore. You know, it used to be that we paid taxes, and so the government was at the mercy of the people, at the service of the people. Now it's you either pay your taxes or you go to jail. So really, the energy in the system has been turned around the wrong way, and it's been that way for a long time. So let me bring this back around. So this devastating heartbreak that I went through, one of the things that made that relationship so difficult is that I had just started to really come into my own as a person when I met the person that I just recently broke up with, or broke up with me, however you want to fucking put it. Sorry. No cursing. One of the things that was so difficult about it was that I had just started to come into my own as a person. I had found, I mean, I've been doing yoga for 18 years, so it wasn't like I found yoga, but I found myself in yoga, if that makes sense. I found myself in meditation. I found myself through a series of what I feel were epiphanies for me. I found out a lot about frequency and meditation and the frequency of creation, all things that I will do other posts about that won't be nearly as painful or as divergent as this one, because this is just all over the place. I might not even put this up, actually. That'll be funny when I put it up and then you're like, haha. So one of the things that made that relationship so difficult was that I had come into my own in a lot of ways, and what that did for me is it emboldened things that have been pretty concretized in my personality from a young age, and one of them being just a dislike for the cops. I don't, how should I say it? I have a natural dislike for the type of person who wants to become a cop, if that makes any sense. There's a certain type of person who really likes power. They really like control. They really like exerting that power and control over other people. And I think everybody does that, so don't get me wrong. I think we all like having power. I think we all like exerting control. But there's methods to it, right? There's the subtle method. Ask any traditionally Asian housewife. She can lay it out for you very clearly what the traditional subtle method is to exerting control over someone. And then there's aggressive bullying method. And I feel that the type of person who has really like a chip on their shoulder, something to prove, some deep-seated insecurity, and needs the power of having a gun and a badge, I feel like there are people like that, a lot of people like that, who are attracted to the profession of being a cop. And it's kind of funny to me that we don't talk about this stuff in the media, like in our social forum. Just as a society, where's our public forum where we can say things like this? I think we all think things like this. I think we all know that, you know, guys that buy really expensive sports cars, or guys who wish they had lots and lots and lots of money, are generally trying to compensate for some lack in a certain region of their bodies or Well, no, I've just recently realized that it's not that men just act out of insecurity of not having the proper sized parts, if you can put it that way, but they also act really cruelly out of insecurity when they don't feel like they're good looking. So it's about all sorts of parts with men. Maybe that's why they objectify women so much. Just kind of objectifying creatures. They kind of objectify themselves too. Have you ever watched a guy at the gym working out? It's like, what do you do? Like, okay. I've been to a gym like once in my life though, so don't like hold me to that. Maybe there's lots of super charming guys that look really cute when they're staring at themselves and doing things to make them look strong, but not actually become strong. Confusing. Okay, so I didn't realize that people can be insecure about that sort of stuff, which is fine. The larger point being, we don't talk about as a society the fact that cops generally have latent reasons for becoming a cop. I don't know how else to say that. There's a certain type of personality that's attracted to positions of power like that. Now, someone could argue, well, do you have to be deeply insecure and need to be overcompensating for something to want to become president because that person has an enormous amount of power? Well, no, but look at the kind of power it is. It's a totally different kind of power. It's a totally different way to wield power. What is it specifically about the way that cops wield power that attracts this specific kind of personality? Well, take a look. What type of power is it? I have a friend in New Orleans. The cops came to her house. Dog jumped up on the cop to say hi. Cop shot the dog in the face and killed it. I'm not an animal person myself. I mean, I don't like when people say that. I love animals deeply, but I don't have a pet. I kind of like inwardly get a little cringy when people talk about their pets as their children and stuff. I don't know why. So I'm not like, this like save pets before people kind of person. But, a lot of people think of their pets as their, like, family members. That I know. There's a lot of people out here. My brother, and you don't have to go far. My older brother has a pet that they definitely consider a member of their family. So this is the type of thing that I'm talking about, the type of personality that feels the need to wield power over even what is essentially a harmless animal. So after the Eric Garner incident, again, look at how bad the media twists us up. After the Eric Garner murder, and then the murder of the 12-year-old child who had a fake gun and was running around in the park. After that third incident, I was like, okay, you know what? I can't do this anymore. Like, I know I wrote that blog. I'm deeply unhappy that I was so right and that like I was prescient enough to like figure that out and write it out in a way that's moving and articulate and makes sense to people and hopefully wakes people up a little bit. I know more than a few people who were like, yo, that really helped me, and it made me want to like tell my friends and tell my people like we can't be like this. So the thing that was so frustrating about this relationship that was in was that I wasn't allowed to express these things. Whenever I would express something like, I'm just going to be honest, okay? I have a tendency to say things like, fuck the police. This is like way before this stuff started happening, but like way before what started happening. Before they killed Michael Brown, or before they killed Eric Garner, or before they killed that 12-year-old, or before they killed this new guy that they just killed today. Like, they've been doing this forever, right? Like, white people in this country have been killing black people forever. So, yes, before they killed Michael Brown, the year prior to that, when I was dating somebody, I couldn't really talk about the fact that, I couldn't say things like, fuck the police, which I've always said and always felt like I was within my rights to say because the cops act like douchebags and it's very difficult, especially as a woman. Let me not even get into that. That's when, back then, before this stuff started happening where they're just like killing black people every other day, I was always pissed at the cops because, I don't know if you guys remember, but a few years ago, this one cop stood guard while another cop raped a girl repeatedly. And, you know, there's footage of them leaving the apartment and coming back into the apartment repeatedly. There's footage of them, you know, the young guy standing outside. She had a medical examination, and they said that the tearing and bruising and, like, everything on her vulva was from excessive washing. So I'm actually, I stopped it. And now I've started again because my mom called, which is hilarious. Like, I don't know if I'm going to use this video or this audio for my first video, but I think it might be kind of funny because I just listened back over everything that I did so far. And I'm like, where the fuck am I going with all this? But then it made sense. It finally, now I have like some idea of what it's like to like be my friend and have to like sit and listen to me talk. Couple of things I've discovered from the little bit that I've just listened to right now. I'm like not as obnoxious as I sound. I gotta get better about like how I talk because I sound so fucking obnoxious. I'm not that obnoxious. I'm like really down to earth. I don't know why when I start talking about stuff that I know a lot about, I like act so fucking pompous or like it just creeps into my voice. It's so annoying. I'm just totally gonna stop doing that. And like I think I listened to too many I have to stop saying that's the other thing. I think I listened to too many philosophers talk, and they have this like kind of highbrow way of like accentuating certain words, and I think I'm such a good mimic that I picked that shit up. And that's the other thing I thought about. I was like, fuck that. I love cursing. I curse on the regular in my daily life, and that's the thing is like if I try to be too stiff and try to make this too proper, then I end up sounding like an asshole, and it's just not who I am. So this next part of this video, I think I am going to do this video. I'll just put it up as the first video like that, like, fuck you, look at the first pancake video. And like, if you need any more proof than this of me being a Gemini, then like, you're lost. Because I'm sure when I listen back over this, it's going to be like, what the fuck, this is two different people talking. Welcome. Anyway, so to tie together all that stuff that I was saying before, it was really hard to be in a relationship where I couldn't talk about certain things, especially because, like this video should be proof of, I'm really in, oh my God, there's a guy walking down the street taking selfies. That's amazing. Like a desi guy in a suit walking down the street taking selfies, like walking fast. Multitasking, boss level. I fucking love that. It was really hard not to talk about things that I knew were in the ether and I knew were going to come up. You know, I've always said fuck the cops, but lately, like the past 4 or 5 years, because I was married and my ex-husband's like really like fuck the police kind of guy. We have that in common. He was also a Gemini, so we have that in common. I think Geminis in general have like a fuck the police kind of mentality because we're smart and we like to get around and out of things. And like the cops are just like, we think the cops are dumb, I think. That may just be a testament to how we think we're too smart. But like the past 4 or 5 years, you know, there has been this like gradual increasing of the police state. There really has. Like you guys, it started, fuck that, not even 5 years. Giuliani, man. Giuliani like ushered it in, like hardcore. You know, my ex-husband always says that. Like he left September 1st, 2001, like 10 days before September 11th. Like he just bounced. He was like, I'm fucking leaving New York. I can't take this place anymore, because he just felt like Giuliani was such a fucking Nazi, and he had turned New York into something that it was not at all. Like I feel bad for people who just started living in the city, or like got their city legs or got their first apartment in the city, you know, when like after 2001, or like after Giuliani, because that's not New York City. I mean, New York City was so completely different before him. So it was just, the vibe was completely different. Like now, if you want to experience even a fraction of that vibe, like Amsterdam kind of has it, but like Amsterdam's still playing, you know, it's like a nice, cleaned up, regulated, taxed version of like the hardcore mean street, but like totally authentic fucking wonderland fucking amusement park that New York City used to be. Like downtown New York, East Village, early 90s, late 80s. Holy shit. crazy town. And I was like 12, and I like recognized that it was nuts. But like nuts in the best way. Like you talk about that in New York to people now, and they're like, no, that's not true. It's like, where are you from again? Like, where in North Jersey? You know, like, what are you talking about? What do you mean it's not true? Yeah, there used to actually be hookers walking around in the street. Yeah, there are actual crack dealers. I saw something on Charlie Rose. There's some movie coming out about the late 80s, like the crack explosion in New York City, and how the filmmakers had dredged up these statistics about the influx of crack and the ensuing crime wave, and how that period of New York City history was by far the most violent period of the city's history. And, you know, like that, I felt a sense of vindication when I heard that. Because when I talk to people who are transplants, who are not from New York, they have this tendency to make you feel like you're overblowing shit. Where they'll be like, no, it was never really that bad. And you're like, the fuck do you know? Yo, I grew up here. Like, and I always say this to people, like, the 80s, when I was like 10, 11, 12, like, I'm 77. I was born in 77. So, like, even mid-80s, when I was like 10, 11, 12 years old, shit was so crazy. Like that New Jack City crazy shit. You know? Like, where there were still hookers in Times Square. Like, for real. Every other store was a peep show. You know? And you come here after Disney's bought everything and turned it into the mall, and you're giving me the side-eye, talking about shit was never that bad. Come on. And it's like, you just don't even want New York City people to have that cred. That, like, we come from the mean streets. These are the fucking mean streets. Just because you moved here, you know, after you got your job in finance. Like, shut up. Sit down. Sorry. I have so much, like, built up anger against, like, snobby desi people that I feel like it's just going to come out all over the place in my YouTube channel. Like, maybe I should just name my YouTube channel Venom. Venom. Welcome. No. Praise Jesus. Praise God. It's not about Venom. But, you know, you're going to hear it. You're going to hear some salty, like, shady stuff here and there. Like, I throw shade. I throw, like, intelligent shade, though, because my shade is true. It may be shade, but it's true. So, like, eat it up. Anyway. So I couldn't talk about any of this stuff, and I certainly couldn't talk about fuck the cops, which is really, really, really frustrating, because I could feel that how things had just progressively gotten worse and worse and worse, and that's like something was going to happen soon. And like, I didn't know that I knew it, but it's just like what I said earlier in this post. Like, I don't know where I'm going with this stuff, but I know I'm going somewhere, and I always end up there. And when I get there, it's like, oh, you know, but I didn't know at the time that my urgency to talk about the cops, that my urgency to fuck with the cops. Like, I would do this thing where I would go out with my friend Tina, and we would eat like special brownies, and we would go walk around the city, and I would like purposefully fuck with the cops. Like, walk by the cops and be like, fuck the police. And she's like, I'm black. You need to fucking stop it. Like, what are you doing? Like, you're brown. You need to fucking stop it. And I knew that. I'm not stupid. I'm from here. I know what animals NYPD can be. But it was just, I just felt like it was getting too much. And I told her, I was like, you know, I'm frustrated because I feel like every time I fucking turn around, I see a cop. And I'm starting to feel, now listen, this is a year and a half before anything happened. The recent shit that's been happening, where they've been killing people all over the place. I was telling her, I was like, every time I turn around, I feel like I see NYPD. And I feel like it's turning on me. Instead of feeling like I'm being protected, I feel like I'm being watched. And I don't like it. I don't like the way it makes me feel. Excuse me. I don't like the way it makes me feel. I don't like how I feel as a person. It's like when I was younger, I would go into stores, and if someone started following me around like I was going to steal something, I started feeling guilty, like I had stole something. Isn't that funny? I didn't steal anything. I knew I hadn't stolen anything, but I still felt guilty. I still felt shifty. I still acted shady because I knew this person was watching me, and I knew that they thought that I had done something wrong. And that's how I'd started to feel in this city about a year and a half ago. And, you know, I'm bad at keeping my feelings to myself, man. I'm bad at repressing feelings. I get like physically sick when I don't speak my mind. It's like, it's serious psychosomatic shit with me. Like, I gotta just say what's on my mind. I gotta get it out. And it just kept coming out in all these funny ways, like fuck the police, fuck the police, fuck the police. Like, what the fuck? What are they doing? And there were all these, thank God I'm off Facebook. There were all these videos on Facebook all the time that people had recorded of just like dudes getting pulled over from the bus stop. There's this one video, yo, I will never get that guy's voice out of my head. The tone of his voice, he's just a dude that got off the bus, and these two cops fucking stopped him, and I don't know what they said to him, and the whole thing is on video. They had him on the ground. He's like, please, I didn't do anything. Please don't do this. I have my ticket. Look, I have it in my hand. And he's like, and finally, he's like, to a point where in front of all these people, there's like 5 cops sitting on him. They just got him like pinned to the ground, that Eric Garner shit. And he's like screaming, and the way his voice breaks, yo, oh my God. Like, I wish everyone listening to this right now understood Urdu. Kyunki aise dil tootta, like, oh my God, your heart. He's like, why are you doing this to me? I didn't do anything. And he just keeps saying it over and over again. And it doesn't matter, yo, you could be made of stone. If you watch that video, you're going to cry. You're going to cry like a baby. Because that's us, you know? It's all of us. It's all of us who don't have a fucking gun and a fucking badge and a fucking uniform. Because they can do that to all of us, and they're doing it. And this is what I was saying in my blog. They're doing it. They're just doing it to black people, and we're so fucked up, you know? That's why we don't care. We don't care because it's not happening to us. Well, I mean, it's happening to me. Muslims have been feeling this for a minute. It's nothing compared to what black people have been dealing with for centuries, so I'm not complaining, but you know, we've gotten a little taste recently of what it's like when the system turns on you, and damn, I can't even imagine 30 generations in what we'd be like as a people if they kept shipping us off to Guantanamo and doing the like gnarly shit they're doing to us. Like, you know, we're just a generation in and we're already naming our kids different names so they don't get stopped by TSA. That shit is real. That shit is real. Shout out to every Desi person who's laughing right now because they know some fucking douchebag who named their kid some American name. I'm talking to you. Talking to your douchebag friend. So I can't even imagine what we'd be like 30 generations in, you know? We're such pussies that way. We'd probably all be named like Andrew Mulligan 30 generations from now, like using bleach cream and fucking white girls so we didn't even have brown kids anymore. Like, shit is real. You know, at least like black people stay black somehow. I don't even know how y'all. Oh, right, because they contained you. Maybe that's why. Maybe that's what the ghettos are for. Maybe it's just as much to keep you in as it is to keep white people out. You see? This is what I mean. I meander. I wander. It doesn't make sense. And then all of a sudden, gold. Play it back. Listen to it again if you didn't catch it. I might play it back myself. That's when you know you're doing something you love. When you love your shit so good that you like sit and listen to it yourself, or you read it yourself, or you make something, you look at it yourself, and you're like, yes, honey. That's how I feel nowadays when I do my makeup after I watch Manny videos. You know Manny, MUA. He's like the cutest guy that's ever like walked the earth. He's so, I mean, like aside from my son, mashallah, he's so cute. Super gay. Like fantastic makeup artist. Oh, and he makes the funniest faces and he does the funniest accents, and he's just like, oh, he's so sweet. And I think he's like raised Mormon, so he has that Mormon glow. You should look that up. There's a study about the Mormon glow. Like, you can tell Mormons can tell other Mormons, even like from being on TV, because their skin and their face is like lit up in a certain way. And there's like all these studies that prove that like indeed there is something called the Mormon glow. Anyway, Manny has it. I'm not in any way endorsing Mormonism or anything of the sort. I'm just saying, see, his face glows like an angel. So the point is that all this stuff was going on and all these fucked up videos were out there, and I couldn't talk about it. Because, like, I watched that video and I was crying, and I talked to my boyfriend about it, and I was like, you know, and this is like someone like I ride or die loved. And it's like, you know, and because I get worked up about shit like this. It's like the way he was saying on the video, he was screaming, and why are we at? And he was like, yo, you need to like stop watching these videos. And I was like, wait, what? I'm trying to tell you something important. Like, look what's going on in our world. And he was like, yo, legit, you need to stop watching these videos. Like, you can't change this. Like, and I'm like, what? Stop talking about it. Like, I'm not even, let me not try to be like a fucking superhero here. I'm not talking about it because I want to change it. I'm talking about it because I can't help it. I'm not talking about it because I want to be some fucking activist. I'm not talking about it because I feel like I could do something, even though, you know, I do feel like I can fucking do something. But I wasn't even talking about it because I felt like I could do something. I was just talking about it because I can't help it. Because I see this stuff happen and my heart breaks into a million pieces and I'm like, why? Why is it okay? Yo, that dude that those cops had like that at the bus stop, that's somebody's dad. What if it was your dad? That's somebody's brother. Yo, for sure that's somebody's son. Like, why? Just because they're black, they ain't got mamas? Like, come on. I can't get worked up about that because I'm not black? And then I would talk about, like, Palestinians, like, you know, what the fuck, what's going on? But you're not Palestinian, babe. But I'm Muslim. You know, Muslims are all one, but come on. That's not how it really is. Like, basically, don't give a fuck. Why do you give a fuck so much? And now that, like, you know, after the relationship, after all the fucking heartbreak, after, like, the fucking disastrous breakup where I was like, I'm gonna die. Now I'm, like, back to the point where I can talk about this stuff. And one of the first things I did that I felt like I really came back into my own after that breakup was that I wrote that blog. And look how, like, on fucking point that was. So I was like, okay, I'm, like, getting back to myself. I'm starting to be myself again. And then after the stuff happened with Eric Garner, after the murders, after the 12-year-old, I stopped watching the news because I was like, I can't do this. Like, I'm trying to get over this heartbreak. It's fucking killing me, right? And, like, trying to get on with my life, trying to be creative and productive at the same time, which for me is not always easy to do both. It's very easy for me to be creative and it's very easy for me to be productive, but to be creatively productive is like an animal that's hard to wrestle with, and it happens few and far between, but when it does, it's like shining, beautiful moments. So I've learned that you just have to press through and push through and trust your process, even though my particular process, like, I feel that very few people have ever understood my creative process. Like, my friend Alex, who's like Russian to the bone, gets my process. But, you know, I think Pushkin, like, drank all night until he was so fucking drunk he couldn't see straight and then, like, wrote poetry. I apologize to anyone out there who's, like, a super Pushkin fan and now wants to kill me because maybe that's not accurate. That's just my interpretation of Russian, moody, passionate artists. But the Russian, as I call him, totally understands my process. So when he walks into my apartment, you know, because he's got his own keys, and is like, oh, you're smoking and drinking and painting and listening to the same Bollywood song on repeat. Fine. Good. That looks good. I like it. Let's have a drink. You know, and you're like, oh, yeah, cool. So I'm getting back into that creative process, and I found it difficult to maintain any sort of productivity and know what was going on in the world because people just kept getting killed. Black people are just getting killed every other fucking day. And I was like, I can't do this. And I'm going to be really, really selfish and fucked up and just stop watching the news because I'm heartbroken and I'm trying to get on with my life. And every time I see this stuff, it breaks my heart again. And it's tinged with guilt. It's tinged with this weird guilt that for the past year and a half, when I wanted to speak up and say all sorts of stuff and blog about it and talk about it and write about it, I didn't. Oh, because I wanted to fucking be this Stepford, Desi Stepford thing. Ugh. My sister-in-law, she, like, broke that shit down. She was like, you're not a Stepford. You're never gonna be a Stepford. And I was like, oh my God. Hallelujah. The light. You know, and that year that I spent, almost a year, 10 months, whatever, being like a Stepford, or not even, no, attempting badly, like attempting for 5 minutes and then like having a fucking meltdown or like making a scene. Because like as soon as like it would occur to me that I was being Stepford, I would fucking act out. Of course, some punk. Yeah. But that year and a half that I was a Stepford, I could have been like, that I kept being one, I guess, a year and a half, that's how I'm counting it. I could have been talking about the stuff that I really wanted to talk about, the stuff I was talking about before I met this guy and started dating him. You know, the road I was on before, like, I got, like, what was genuine advice that I should just not watch these videos and not give a fuck. Even though I knew that that was not the way, and that, like, that was not me, and that there's nothing in my body that could ever support that sort of apathy, but I tried. And now, when this stuff started happening, I really did feel guilty. And maybe that just sounds so solipsistic that it's not even funny, but I felt guilty. Like, yo, this past, like, however long, I could have been making a difference, even albeit a minuscule difference. I could have been writing more blogs. I could have written that blog that I wrote. I could have written that blog a year ago. You know? Not to say that my blog has this gigantic impact on the world, but come on. If we all were doing stuff like that, look where we'd be. You know? And I have that kind of belief in myself. Gemini Snake, Kanye, Dylan, Schweitzer, Sart, you know? I'm turned. I got it. And I fucking should have been using it all along. My, like, best friend in the whole world tells me all the time, writing is your gift. Writing is your gift. Words are your power. Like, use it, use it, use it. And for a year and a half, I didn't do it. Because I wanted to fucking fit the mold. And there's the lesson. Boom, bada bing. Ladies and gentlemen, we get there to the point. Finally, there's the lesson. How did we all get here? How did we get to the point where then just this morning another black man was killed as he was running away? He was shot in the back and killed. What's the lesson? Are we all Stepfords? As Anu would put it, as my sister-in-law would put it, are we all trying to fit into the mold of a boyfriend that we can't please? That we're never going to be good enough for? Who's the boyfriend? Who are we in this relationship with? This severely abusive relationship where you're just being put down all the time and you're just not good enough. You gotta work, baby. You gotta work hard for this. You gotta work. You gotta put in the fucking effort. It's not enough. It's not enough that you work all day. It's not enough that you keep your shit together. It's not enough that you're not out here fucking killing people because you got stress and bills and sicknesses and a kid that won't listen. Or it's not enough. No. Your kid can't play in the park with a toy gun. Because there's no such thing as a cop coming up to a kid and saying, yo, you shouldn't do that. That's not smart. There's no such thing as a cop going up to a 19-year-old and saying, hey, don't walk in the middle of the street. Might get hurt. There's no such thing as a cop saying to a gigantic asthmatic man, you don't sound too good. You breathe all right? You know, because their lives don't matter. Our lives don't matter. You know, before it was only black people that were crying about losing their fathers to jail and cops killing them, planting shit on them. There's only black people, black women sitting around crying about it. And then even they got sick of crying about it. And now you got white people out here crying. You know why? Because we're all starting to wake up. We're all starting to wake up to the fact that that could be any of us. That we're all in this fucking relationship with the same fucked up guy who wants us to be something that we can't be. You know what he wants us to be? He wants us to be whatever he wants us to be. We can't be different colors. We can't be different ethnicities. We can't talk in different ways. We can't dress differently. No hoods. We can't. We're not allowed. Behave yourself. Behave properly. Behave properly. And if you don't, I don't love you. If you don't behave properly, I don't love you. You're not enough. And what do we get? What do we get from our government? What are we getting from the guy that we thought was gonna change everything? Yo, you're black. Fucking say something. Say anything. Say, like, I don't know what to say anymore. Say that. Barack, say that. Just come out and say, you know what? These people crazy. And I don't know what to say anymore. Because I can't do nothing. Say something. Because we're all in this relationship with this guy. And, you know, he just... If we don't act exactly how he wants us to act, he's just going to kill us. And, you know, it's not even like a normal guy. It's like an alcoholic guy. That's how the cops are. They're not just like a normal abusive guy. You know, like it's like someone who has like a hair trigger. Someone who has like a really quick temper. Someone who's in some way intoxicated. You know, people who are drunk, they have like this kind of hair trigger temper. Like the way they react. Like when they all kind of just piled on to Garner. You know, the way they pile on to that guy. Yo, YouTube search it. The guy in front of the bus stop who gets stopped by the cops. The way they all pile on top of him. Like there's so many videos of the cops now on YouTube that I can't even watch more than 1 or 2. I can't sleep at night. But like, you know, it's the fury with which they turn. And they always say, well, we're afraid. That's why we act that way. We're afraid. Who are you afraid of when there's 6 of you sitting on someone? You're not afraid. What are you afraid of? He has a Uzi? Well, what? Or his like gang boys are gonna come by and like shoot you? How often does this bullshit happen that we keep fucking giving people like Denzel Oscars for? Don't even get me started for him not getting the Oscar for Malcolm. Like... But is that how people act when they're afraid? They bully people when they're afraid? You know, people who are scared don't really seem to bully people to me. People who are scared seem to keep to themselves. So it's not just, you know, that's why I say alcoholic. There's probably a better example for that. Bipolar is probably better. Like someone who like pretends to be really nice, but is like mean as fuck. Like so mean that it's like violent. Does that make sense? Like when someone is so mean with their words that it's like getting hit. It's violent. It's abusive, right? It's like that. It's like the person, like the way the cops are now, it's like this really like what appears to be a very respectable person. And that everyone like in the society is like, yeah, okay, that's a respectable person. And then, but then you know, the white people don't know. The white people's like the rest of society. They don't know that the relationship you're in, the guy's such a fucking douche, and he just controls you all the time. And if you don't do exactly what he wants you to do, he's just like gonna fucking tear you up. They don't realize it, and we're in the relationship with the guy, and they're like, no, white people are like everything's fine. What's going on? But now they're starting to see it because now there's videos. Now there's videos of the dude, you know, beating the girl. Killing the girl, shooting us, killing our children, leaving our children to rot in the streets. 4 hours they left Michael Brown's uncovered body in the sun. 4 hours uncovered. A child. Because that's the message. You think just because a black man is in the White House that you guys have some power? That you could think you're something? That this kid thought that he could walk in the middle of the street? That's what I think. That's why I think he killed him. Yep, that's what I think. I think it pissed that white cop off that the dude was walking in the middle of the street being a little bit gangster. Yep, I think it pissed him off. I think he was like, who the fuck does this nigga think he is? Yep, that's what I think. Because when you look at that autopsy report and you look at the way those bullets went into that child, that's hate. Can't tell me. That's hate. I'm on TV talking like it's just you and me. You can't tell me. Because I know. Because I know. because I know what I know. So